Hi, I'm Mrs. Sizemore. Welcome again to my house. The last few times I've been teaching you how to do some games with your family, and today we're going to talk about instrument families. I'm going to start by talking about um, the four different families. In the past, in my music class, I've been able to show you pictures and do videos of some of these instruments. So, uh, these are some of the percussion family, things like the snare drum, tambourine, timpani, cymbals, bass drum, xylophone, triangle. Then I've also shown you pictures of some of the instruments of the woodwind family: flute, piccolo, oboe, bassoon, okay? And then a lot of my fourth and fifth graders already know about these. These are the stringed instruments: cello, double bass, harp, viola, and violin. And then last but not least is the brass family: tuba, here's the French horn, here is the trombone. Now, I'm missing a few instruments on our cards, and the reason I'm missing them is because I asked for my special guest to help me out today. So Mr. Sizemore is going to come over here in just a second, and he's going to show you a trumpet. So here's a trumpet. It's part of the brass family. The brass family is characterized because it's metal and it uses valves. Can you show the three different valves? And all the notes on the trumpet are based on moving the three valves. And then, what's that called again, Mr. Sizemore?
Your embouchure.
Your embouchure. So as he plays his trumpet, it makes the sound go up and down. So he's going to play just a little bit of a song for you so that you can hear how the embouchure works for the trumpet.
The embouchure is your mouth and how it opens your lips.
Okay. So as you can see on the trumpet, did you see how his fingers moved? And it's kind of hard to see unless you're really close, but his mouth is moving and making different shapes. The higher the sound, the tighter his lips are getting. And then the lower the sound is, he's able to make a little bit less tension in his mouth. But his fingers are also helping to make each of the notes. So the trumpet is part of the brass family, so it only has three valves. So the tuba does that, and so does the French horn. The trombone is the only exception because instead of having the three valves, it moves as with the slide. So then the next family I'm going to talk about is the woodwind family. And this is a clarinet. And a clarinet is part of the woodwind family because it uses a reed. So if you look at the reed right here, a reed is actually made out of wood. And the reason it's part of the woodwind family is because as you move your fingers, it covers the different holes. The more holes you cover with your finger, the longer the tube becomes. So if all the holes on the clarinet are covered, it makes a low sound. But then when I lift my fingers up, it gets higher. And just like the trumpet where it has the embouchure that it makes it so it goes higher, the clarinet does that too, except it has a little piece on the back called the register key. So instead of staying low, if I hit the register key, sorry, it also goes high. And Mrs. Sizemore played clarinet in high school and a little bit in college, so I haven't played it very much, but for a while. But it's one of those things where once you play an instrument, you can play it for life. So even though I haven't played it for a long time, it comes back to me. Mr. Sizemore hasn't played his instrument probably since he was in college, and yet he's still able to play the trumpet. So the clarinet is part of the woodwind family. All woodwind instruments have fingerings that you move. My fourth graders especially know this because they play the recorder. And when you play the recorder, you're also moving your fingers. So the recorder is part of that woodwind family. Not every woodwind family has a reed, and not every reed looks like this. Clarinet and bass clarinet and saxophone have reeds like this. But if it is, say, an oboe or a bassoon, it's actually called a double reed because the reed, instead of one piece of wood, it's there's actually an opening between them. So instead of being flat like this, it's like circular. Okay, so the sound goes through the reeds. Then another part of the family, another family is the percussion family. Mr. Sizemore is going to help us with that. And we have a pair of maracas. Maracas are part of the percussion family. You want to play this real quick? It's part of the percussion family because it is something that you hit or shake. Now, thank you. So the maraca is actually some beads or some rice inside that move as you play. Now, another member of the percussion family technically is the piano. The piano is considered part of the percussion family because it has little hammers inside, and as you press on the notes, it makes a sound. So keyboard is kind of a weird thing because the keyboard family is sometimes considered their own family, but yes, it is still percussion. But they kind of like harpsichord, keyboard, organ. That's why they kind of consider it its own little thing sometimes. So it's a little confusing because even music teachers debate about what they think a category should be for some instruments. Anyway, I do not have a violin or a viola or a cello or a harp, but I do happen to have a mandolin. And so a mandolin is another example from the strings family. This is actually a folk instrument. A mandolin, I'll show you, this is really cool. It actually has 8 strings. And what's neat about it is this top string and the next string are the same note, then this one. So even though it has 8 strings, it's actually only 4. So a mandolin uses the same fingerings as a violin. So if you're a violinist and you decide, hey, you know what, it'd be fun to do and learn a new instrument? A mandolin, ta-da-da, has the exact same instrument fingerings as a violin. And a mandolin is a lot smaller than a guitar. I actually own a guitar and had to pass the guitar proficiency, but I have really small hands, like really small hands. And so a mandolin is actually a lot easier for me to play than a guitar. So these little pieces along the top, these lines that go across, these are called frets. And every time your finger moves down a fret, it changes the note. So right now, here's our first note. And then as I go higher, make my finger go lower, it makes the string get shorter, and that makes the sound go higher. So I don't know if you can hear that. It might be easier to hear it on a lower note. Right? So this is a mandolin. It is a part of the strings family. So these are the 4 instrument families, and we spent a lot of time talking about this in 3rd quarter. This is just a review for you to remember the 4 instrument families and what makes the characteristics of each family different. So again, strings, make it a string instrument. Being able to hit or shake it, makes it a percussion instrument. If it's metal and has valves, or it's metal and you move the slide, that makes it brass. And then if you use a reed, or you have to move your fingers up and down to lengthen the tube in order to make the sound, that makes it a woodwind instrument. Okay, bye. See you later.